I'd like to invite Kathleen Ryan, Chairperson of US Board at Chernobyl Children International.
Thank you for inviting me, and heartfelt thanks to all of you here for your commitment, for your hard work, for your willingness to find your own particular areas of expertise, and particularly thank you to the scientists and researchers that are giving us good hard information to base our decisions on. I'd like to describe the experience that we've had as an NGO working in communities affected by the Chernobyl disaster and how that approach has changed dramatically over time. Chernobyl Children International started in Ireland as an emergency aid organization, and in fact we delivered over €100 million in aid through convoys that traveled across Europe by truck, and we brought over 25,000 children from contaminated communities to Ireland for summer and winter holidays. But as the time passed since the Chernobyl disaster, the needs of the people affected changed, and we changed our approach as well. From those times of delivering humanitarian aid, we developed relationships of trust and familiarity, and we were able to develop those relationships to build partnerships over the years. And we evolved to become a network of local partnerships in training, medical intervention, and capacity building. And I'd like to mention a few of the best examples of that approach. One would be our children's cardiac surgery program. When we went into Minsk in 2002 and visited the cardiac surgery center, the head of surgery described to us in tears that there were 7,000 children waiting for cardiac surgery, and that while they were well able to do surgeries on adults, that operating on children was in fact a very particular thing. They did not have the expertise, and that of those 7,000 children, they expected most of them would die without surgery. He even showed us a dog-eared, worn-out medical textbook that showed how to operate on children and said, this is what we have to go on. So we partnered with the United States Novik Cardiac Alliance, and we started to bring teams of surgeons into Minsk. They worked side by side with their Belarusian counterparts. We provided surgeries and we provided training. And within a couple years, the waiting list for surgeries was down by half. And today there is no waiting list. And in fact, the surgeons at the Children's Cardiosurgery of Minsk have world-class skills. They're able to handle their own needs, and they're even able to provide expertise to other programs. Where we went next was Ukraine. We worked we have been working in Kharkiv at the Kharkiv Center for Cardiac Surgery for 5 years. And the same thing, going in with volunteer surgeons. We've provided training, we've provided equipment, and we're ready to move on and do something similar in Kiev. Our partners in this were the respective hospitals, along with the Novik Cardiac Alliance, and we invested over $1 million, and our investment actually attracted a US State Department grant of $500,000. So the program was able to save directly over 4,000 children's lives. That's just through surgery, but since there was a training component, the teams were able to save lives year-round, even when we weren't there, and we also helped the hospitals develop local sources of funding so that the program would be sustainable over time. Another example was our work in building community centers. Dr. Menanabi spoke very movingly of some of the mental health needs in the wake of the disaster and how persistent they could be. And so we worked with the local departments of social protection in 10 areas, including Glutsk, Zikovici, and Petrikov, and we either built or refurbished community centers there. Each of the centers serves populations of over 60,000 people. And they're able to be focal points for social services, educational services, medical outreach, in areas that are most affected by poverty and high rates of disability. Some of the sorts of programs that are able to be run from these community centers include thyroid, breast cancer, and AIDS screening, physical therapy, childhood literacy, and elder care services. And they're now able to serve as a base for the next program I'd like to talk about, and that is deinstitutionalization of children and young adults. We strongly support the basic right of people with disability to live independently and in their communities and not segregated from society and institutions. In Glutsk, we've pioneered a number of projects that are pathways to independent living for young adults with disabilities who've spent their entire lives in orphanages. And we could not have done this without the support of the Department of Social Protection in Glutsk. We recently formalized this approach with a memorandum of understanding between CCI, the Mogilev Department of Social Protection, Glutsk Community Center, and the Belarusian NGO World Without Borders that will provide a path of life skills, literacy, and numeracy training for institutionalized young children that will step them through the process of living independently and finally even going to court to become emancipated and to have their rights restored to them and even provide them with suitable jobs inside the community. This is, again, another example of how as an NGO you need to work with local partners in order to get this sort of thing done. You just can't do it alone. We also, in partnership with the Department of Health, established in the #1 baby home in Minsk, a baby hospice. It's a place for families to stay together during the final days of their child. We were able to contribute outside expertise from the Ireland and the United States, where hospice programs are a bit more established, and combine that with the local cultures and ways of thinking to provide a program that they can run over time. We also have developed foster homes for children who come from such severe backgrounds of neglect and abuse that it simply wouldn't be possible to hope to keep them with their families. This program also leverages our system of community centers. We have worked with the Department of Education and established 21 of these foster homes throughout Mogilev and Gomel. And these aren't really in and out revolving door fostering situations. These are really very permanent homes, and many of the children in these homes have been adopted. And finally, I just wanted to give an example of a program that we call a community care program. We didn't work with any of the government institutions, but we did hire and train local health care professionals to provide support for families that really fell through some of the cracks, who really only had the option of institutionalization because their child was so profoundly disabled, but who did not want to institutionalize their child. We provide home health visits, training, physical therapy programs so that those families are able to stay together. Underscoring our theme of partnership, these are examples of programs that have only become successful because they were developed in local partnership. They were built on a personal, person-to-person familiarity, trust, and shared commitment that by working together we can solve complicated problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan, for sharing with us the important work of your organization.